Next up, Russ and I are going to review the 4K release of Roadhouse from Vinegar Syndrome.
And this is a time to be nice. So like our video, subscribe to us, and drop us a comment. We're friendly dudes.
Oh, really?
Russ, we talked about how awesome Vinegar Syndrome is, and I wanted to take some time to talk about and gush a little bit about their release of Roadhouse on 4K Ultra HD for the first time from Vinegar Syndrome. This is the 4th Vinegar Syndrome Ultra, and this package is absolutely stunning. I watched this movie the other day. The transfer itself is wonderful. We'll talk a little bit about that transfer. We'll talk a little bit about the package at the end of the review. And this movie came out in 1989 by Rowdy Harrington, which is a freaking great name. Not only is it a great name, but it's a great name for this movie. Like when you see directed by Rowdy Harrington come on the screen, damn, I'm ready to get rowdy.
Does a hobby horse have a wooden dick?
And it's about a cooler who protects a small town from a corrupt businessman. It's starring Patrick Swayze, People Magazine's 1991 Sexiest Man Alive.
Does a hobby horse have a wooden dick?
It stars Sam Elliott, Kelly Lynch, and Jackie Treehorn himself, Ben Gazzara.
I'm Jackie Treehorn.
Rowdy Harrington was previously a gaffer and a grip on movies like Nightmare on Elm Street and Repo Man, and then it's not his first directing credit. He's got one before this, but this is his first movie that's got any backing, any studio interest at all. It's still considered a flop, and allegedly that was due to the marketing. He had just come off of Dirty Dancing, so they were trying to market it more to that audience to get them into the theater to see Patrick Swayze. So I think when people came to see this, maybe they were a little bit turned off by it.
Nobody puts baby in the corner, not I used to fuck guys like you in prison.
Certainly not. Where it really found its life was home video. It found its life on television. It found its life on VHS, which is where I saw it.
Roadhouse, coming December 15th on video cassette. Reserve your copy now.
Having been basically a newly minted star, like he became a star overnight after Dirty Dancing. This was basically his next big movie.
He was a star already.
Not before Dirty Dancing. He was a guy.
Yeah, that's what they say.
I'm going to give my own opinion, but I'm just going to posit the question before we jump in, which is this a good movie, or is it a movie that's so bad that it's good? I watched this movie recently. I've always really had a spot for this movie in my heart, just mainly because it's fun in general, but also Patrick is just like nailing it. And I guess when I think about this movie, I think about him first and foremost.
I run the show.
He owns the role entirely. And it's also kind of crazy to think like he was just Dirty Dancing before this, and now like if he just flips onto its side where he still got the same kind of look, he still kind of got the same way about him, but now he's like kicking ass and he's like, a little bit more.
It's not that different.
Philosophical.
Do you ever win a fight?
Nobody ever wins a fight.
I love how it's philosophy. You just don't say much, and when you say things, just make them, pain don't hurt.
It's corny, but it makes sense. Also, his physicality in the movie, which he obviously showed in Dirty Dancing, but he does all his own stunts in this movie. He broke several ribs in that like final fight. He like hurt his knee during the filming of this. Like he really put everything into it, and I think that clearly shows.
Thanks. No problem.
And honestly, too, the great running gag of the movie, which is, I thought you'd be bigger, which I don't know if they wrote that in because of who they cast, or that's just kind of how they wanted to portray this guy, like you were going to underestimate him. But I think that allows in this movie his opponents to not only underestimate him, but also it allows the audience to believe that he really could be badass in disguise.
Pain don't hurt.
I think you're overthinking this entire movie.
Dude, it's got depth.
Casting process.
Dude,
you're
this movie's
going
got
on
depth.
about philosophy.
Dude, this movie's got depth.
Come on, dude. He was one of those actors I wouldn't accuse of being a great actor.
Okay.
But he's a really good actor, and he's got a fucking presence. He's just iconic. Some people just have a look or like a vibe. And Swayze had that. And he has it in this.
Yeah.
He had it in Ghost. He has it in even movies.
Point Break.
Oh, God damn right. He has it in Point Break.
Yeah.
Shit.
That's my man.
To answer your first question, in my opinion, about whether or not it's good or bad, it's both. It's really, really good in certain arenas, but it serves to almost heighten how absurd the rest of it is, which in turn makes it even better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the reason why people love this, it's two reasons. There's people like me and you who love this because it is such a well-made film with an absurdist element. But I think another reason why casual people love this movie, it's kind of like Top Gun Maverick. It's just, you turn your brain off. You can watch it from any moment. You're not confused in any part about who's the good guy, who's the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's a perfect movie for TBS or some shit like that. You can pop it on at any second and just leave it on in the background.
I've always gone into this movie thinking the same thing. This movie straddles that it's so bad it's good, but it's also good at the same time. But it's, you know, like unintentionally funny or whatever. I think they knew exactly what they were trying to do, and it works. What they wanted to do, they did.
No, I think what they were trying to do was an 80s action movie. I mean, you watch this film, it's like they went down a checklist. They had a clear vision of making like the most 80s action extravaganza ever.
This movie is a Western.
Yeah.
In modern times.
It is.
Like you put cowboy hats on these people, you change the bar to a saloon, you take away the cars and give them horses.
Right. Fix the town. And that's every Western ever.
A bad guy that runs the town.
Yes.
You know, like
they were doing that a lot in the 80s because the Western genre died out. So the action movies were kind of taking on the Stallones and all. They were basically doing Western tropes just in a different setting.
Supporting cast. You got Sam Elliott. He's a treasure.
Exactly right.
I think he fits this universe perfectly.
Oh my God,
he fits
fucking
this
incredible.
It fits it perfectly. And what's funny too, when I recently watched this movie, what I noticed was you can see his face in this movie because his mustache is trimmed down. Usually in most movies I've seen, he's got that huge giant bushy mustache, and I was like, wow, I can see his face finally.
I sure ain't gonna show you my dick.
Kelly Lynch, looking good as the love interest. Did you know, Russ, Kelly Lynch was not originally cast as the love interest? It was Annette Bening.
Why don't you run outside and jerk yourself a soda?
Annette Bening came in and did a screen test with Patrick Swayze, and they had zero chemistry.
Just lucky, I guess.
They needed a hottie for Patrick.
Like I said, they're going down a checklist of everything. You needed a blonde,
bombshell
bimbo,
type.
basically.
I love it.
One thing that Kelly Lynch mentions in the special features, but I had read previously, was that she's married to this guy, Mitch Glazer, who's a close friend of Bill Murray. And Bill Murray apparently is a big fan of this movie.
You guys are both into Roadhouse?
Whenever this movie is on TV, which is like perpetually, if it's on and Bill Murray sees it, he has called us in the middle of the night. And Mitch will pick up the phone, and Bill Murray, who will have like tried to like disguise his voice a little bit, will be like,
You don't know me, but your wife's getting slammed up against the wall by Patrick Swayze.
Can you answer me this, since you're throwing me all this trivia?
Okay.
What the fuck happened with Keith David in this movie?
yes. So
What is up with that? He's in it for like a second. He's a glorified extra, and this is Keith David. What happened?
typically this kind of a movie, it's like 80, 90 minutes long. You know, like that's how I
this
feel.
movie's long.
Dude, it's 2 hours. It's like nearly 2 hour movie. They've got a lot of plot they're trying to get through. It doesn't ever feel slow to me. Like I just recently watched it. It's got some depth more than what an 80, 90 minute film would have. Now, initially, this was a 3 hour and 20 minute cut. And one of the big things that they talk about in the editing process on these special features was, who do we got to get rid of to get this movie? And Keith David was one of them.
You know, that really answers my fucking question.
Keith David has a whole story arc where he comes into the bar and he's got a girl with him or whatever. And obviously this place is like trashy as fuck and they're being like racist to him. And so he gets into a fight with them and he beats all their asses so badly that Patrick's like, hey, you want to like job here? Like they befriend each other.
God, I want to see this.
Yes. So
man.
then he becomes a bartender there and he's got a plot, but apparently according to the director, it was like maybe 15, 20 minutes of overall screen time that were like, we just chopped that out.
The man is crazy.
There's so many little characters like that in this movie too that kind of like make the movie shine. The guy that's the singer, like, it's a great world that they create.
Jeff Healey.
Yeah, Jeff Healey Band. Yeah,
that alone gives this movie so much personality.
Jeff being on the set was just like a calming effect with his wild ass guitar. It's like, whoa.
There's so many reasons to love this movie again. I can't. All the stuff we just talked about. It's just a fun movie. It's a blast. Patrick Swayze. He just makes you feel good. Like, I don't know what it is. Something about him. It's just awesome to see him.
That Western element you brought up too, the fact they got Dean Cundy to shoot it. And I mean, he's a genius.
He is.
And like I said, there's a class to it all. That's very strange given what we're watching.
Yep.
No, I don't have anything negative to say about Roadhouse.
After this movie, Patrick Swayze was offered Predator 2 and Tango and Cash. And he declined them both because he had hurt himself on this movie, and both of those are a little bit more, physical, intense. So he went on and he did Ghost, which obviously was the right move considering Predator 2 and Tango and Cash both were what they were. He obviously then had a prolific career afterwards and then passed away in 2009 from pancreatic cancer, and he sorely missed.
Does a hobby horse have a wooden dick?
Do you know what Rowdy Harrington did after this? He followed up next with Gladiator, not Russell Crowe, Cuba Gooding, and that white dude. I don't know his name.
Anthony Hopkins.
Sounds charming.
And then Striking Distance with Bruce Willis. Although this movie was considered a flop, it still holds a special place in many people's hearts, mine included. And it was followed up with Roadhouse 2, and it stars Jimmy from That Thing You Do.
Come on, for the people who don't know.
It was 17 years later.
I was about to say, this was a long, and it was direct-to-video.
Yeah, it was 17 years
Nobody
later.
watched it.
No, but now another direct-to-video, if you want to call it that, Amazon streaming remake of Roadhouse is currently being filmed, starring Jake Gyllenhaal as the lead. There you have it.
I mean, Gyllenhaal, I don't know. I'm intrigued.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
You know, you might even like it.
And as we mentioned, it obviously made the biggest splash at home. Now, it was a $61 million at the box office. It made $142 million from VHS, DVD, Blu, and streaming sales combined. So that's obviously where it made its money and had its biggest impact. In 2003, it had its first DVD. It was a deluxe edition then in 2006, and finally Blu-ray 2009. 2016 is when Shout Select put theirs out, which is the one that I've got. And on that one, finally, some real love was given to it. You know, like a lot of special features, a new transfer, all that kind of stuff. And now, in 2022, we have what could be the definitive release of Roadhouse up until this point, from transfer, packaging, features, all around. I don't know that we're going to get a better release than this. The first thing I just want to talk about quickly is the packaging. So the one that I've got is the VSU edition, which comes with the hard magnet class box, which is the new hot trend. Probably will continue in 2023. This is my first Vinegar Syndrome release. Looking at this, not only the box is nice, the magnet clasp is great. The art's pretty cool. I'm kind of liking it more and more as I look at it. The care of the package, though, it's like the Roadhouse and the Patrick Swayze and the border around it glisten. It's obviously there's some gloss or something on there. It just makes it pop. The spine has got that same sort of like glistening effect. And even on the back, Roadhouse, Patrick's on there. It looks really, really great. The spine is great. The Vinegar Syndrome logo is kind of glistening too. When you open it up, it's got the Double Deuce logo. It's got this really great booklet with some really awesome essays in it. And then you've got the slip box itself, which, again, it looks like this. We've got not exactly the original poster art, but very close. So this is the original poster art minus one key component. On the cover, the original poster is 3 images. One of Patrick punching, one of Patrick fucking, and one of a car on fire. That tells you all you need to know.
Exactly right.
The one thing that I love about this slipcover, and again, I'm told that most slipcovers from Vinegar Syndrome look like this. There's some detail on here that's popping out. Like Patrick Swayze's entire body is popping off of this slipcover. It's really nice. It's not like, we talk about rigid slipcase. This is a rigid ass slipcover. It's not like a hard thing, but it's harder than normal. The other thing I shared with you, which I think is really cool, is it's 4 layers of Patrick's hands folded. You've got the outside box.
I didn't notice that until you pointed it out. That is great. That's a beautiful touch.
Outside folded arms, slipcover folded arms, box folded arms, and in the back is the booklet with his folded arms. And when you put it all in here,
you need 4 separate images where the body language is the like, body language is saying, "Don't fuck with me.
Don't fuck with me." As far as the movie's concerned, and we'll throw some screenshots up, but I watched this thing and it looks great. It looks exactly how the movie should. I feel like the way that they've brought the feeling of this movie back, and what I mean by that is like you feel like you're there in terms of like the movie clearly looks hot, like where they're at. It looks like a hot climate. You just feel like the sweat on everyone. Everyone is so sunburnt and suntan that it's clearly noticeable. Kelly Lynch, tan as hell. Like everyone, you just see and feel like the details of what's going on. It just looks so great. The dustiness of it, there's some great grain on it. I just think they really nailed the vibe of this whole film. The special features are great. I've watched some of them already, the previous and the new. Just in general, a huge sizable upgrade from what was previously there. In total, it's just an outstanding film, an outstanding package, one of Patrick's crowning jewels, and of course he was gone too soon, but hopefully this release won't be gone too soon. I don't know if it is. I don't know if it's still available. But if you didn't catch this in the VSU version, definitely check out the slipcover version when it does come out. This is the release to own if you're into Roadhouse.